Zara Voss walked through the security scanner like she had done 1,000 times before. The massive crystal device hummed its usual deep note as she stepped into the blue light. She carried her diplomatic pouch and wore her standard Earth courier uniform. Nothing special about today, she thought. Just another delivery run to the outer colonies. The scanner should have finished its check in 3 seconds. Instead, the humming stopped. The blue light flickered and went dark. The crystal, taller than 3 humans standing on each other's shoulders, went completely silent. Every alien in the busy station hall turned to stare. Zara had never seen the scanner turn off before. Nobody had. Then it spoke. The voice came from everywhere at once. It sounded like stars singing and metal breaking and wind through empty space, all mixed together. Every person in the station froze as the words filled the air. Human has endured touch of the apex god. Zara felt her heart stop. The words made no sense to her, but every alien around her looked terrified. A tall Kthari merchant dropped his cargo case. Purple blood drained from his face scales. 2 Villani traders grabbed each other and started whispering prayers in their clicking language. What did you do? The hegemony security chief, a massive Dracon with red battle scars, pushed through the crowd toward Zara. His 4 arms reached for his weapons. What did you do to the scanner? Nothing. Zara raised her hands. I just walked through like always. I don't know what happened. The scanner had been built by the precursors, an ancient race that vanished millions of years ago. Their technology never broke down. It never made mistakes. The gates and scanners they left behind worked perfectly for thousands of years. They checked for weapons, diseases, and dangerous materials. They had scanned billions of beings from hundreds of species. Not once had a scanner ever spoken. The station's emergency alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed as security forces rushed in from every direction. The crowd of aliens backed away from Zara like she carried some terrible disease. She stood alone in the middle of the scanner platform, confused and scared. Apex God, whispered an old Villani female near the back of the crowd. The stories from before the Great Dark Time. The entity that changes the laws of nature just by existing. Myths, snapped the Dracon security chief. But his voice shook. Old tales to scare children. More security forces arrived. They surrounded Zara with energy shields and scanning devices. The hegemony soldiers looked nervous. Their equipment started giving strange readings when they pointed it at her. The bioscans are wrong, reported a technician. The readings don't make sense. Her cellular structure shows exposure to energy types that shouldn't exist. Dr. Keth, the station's head scientist, pushed through the security line. His 6 insect eyes studied Zara with fascination and fear. The scanner archives show no record of this phrase, no mention of any apex god in precursor databases, but the scanner authenticated the statement. It believes what it said is true. I don't understand any of this, Zara said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. I've never heard of an apex god. I don't remember touching anything strange. I'm just a courier. Run a deep scan, ordered the security chief. Check her background, check her planet, check everything. The investigation took hours. They scanned Zara with every device they had. They called Earth and pulled her complete life records. They interviewed her friends, her family, her teachers from school. Nothing unusual came up. She had lived a normal life on Earth's farming colonies. Good grades, clean record, standard human biology, except for the energy readings. The quantum signature is impossible, Dr. Keth explained to the security chief, while Zara waited in a holding cell. Her DNA shows exposure to temporal distortion and dimensional folding, but the patterns are old. Very old, like they happened when she was very young. Could she be a weapon? The security chief asked. Some kind of human secret project? Humans don't have this technology. Nobody does. These energy signatures match theoretical models for forces that exist beyond normal space-time. News of the scanner incident spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Within hours, every major government knew that a human had triggered something in precursor technology that had never happened before. Emergency sessions convened in the Galactic Senate. Military fleets moved to high alert. But in the deep dark between stars, other things were stirring. On dead worlds where no life had walked for millions of years, ancient systems began to activate. Massive ships that had drifted powerless since before recorded history suddenly showed energy readings. Beings that had slept in stasis pods longer than some civilizations had existed started to wake up. The Eternal Conclave received the message, on their hidden station at the galaxy's edge. The 5 species that made up the Conclave were older than any current galactic power. They had seen the rise and fall of 100 civilizations. They remembered things that others had forgotten. The apex god, breathed Counselor Vex, her crystalline body flickering with ancient memories. We thought it was gone forever. Not gone, corrected Counselor Thane, his gas form swirling with worry. Hidden, waiting, and now it has touched. One of them. The humans, said Counselor Mira. The young species from the third spiral, but how, when? They consulted their oldest records, data stored in quantum crystals that predated written language. The files told of an entity so powerful that entire star systems changed their nature when it passed through. Planets where time moved differently. Solar systems where the laws of physics bent around its presence. The apex god had fled something even more terrible, they learned. Before it vanished, it had scattered pieces of itself across space and time, hiding in the quantum foam between dimensions. Most of these fragments were too small to matter, but sometimes, very rarely, a piece would touch normal matter. Send a message to the human worlds, ordered the council leader. Warn them, the harvesters will know by now. Back on the station, Zara sat in her cell and tried to make sense of what had happened. The security chief had questioned her for hours. They had scanned her brain, checked her memories, analyzed her blood. Everything came back normal except for those strange energy readings. A soft knock came at her cell door. A small, elderly Villani female stood outside. Her name was Seer Yala, and she was one of the few mystics the practical hegemony kept on staff for dealing with precursor mysteries. Child, Seer Yala said in accented standard, you have been marked by something very old and very powerful. The touch of the apex god leaves a signature that cannot be hidden. What does that mean? Zara asked. What's going to happen to me? The old mystic's eyes were sad. It means you carry something that was thought lost, something that certain forces in this galaxy will do anything to destroy. What forces? The harvesters. They sleep between the stars, waiting for signs of transcendence to appear. When they learn that the apex god's touch has manifested again, they will come. Seer Yala gripped the cell bars with her thin fingers. And when they do, no world will be safe. In the depths of space, ancient sensors registered the quantum disturbance from the scanner incident. Massive ships that had drifted dark for millions of years began to move toward the galaxy's edge. The harvesters were waking up. The news reached every corner of known space within a day. A human had triggered something in precursor technology that had never happened before. The phrase, human has endured touch of the apex god, appeared in news feeds, government reports, and emergency broadcasts across 1,000 worlds. Most species treated it as a curious anomaly. Humans were already known for their strange ability to use precursor technology in unusual ways. Perhaps this was just another example of their weird compatibility with ancient systems, but some species remembered older stories. Deep in the Andromeda sector, the Eternal Conclave gathered for the first time in 3,000 years. Their meeting place was a station built inside a hollow moon, hidden from all charts and sensors. The 5 ancient species that made up the conclave had witnessed events that modern civilizations thought were myths. Counselor Vex's crystalline form pulsed with worried light as she shared data from their oldest archives. The quantum signatures match. This is not a mistake or a hoax. The human truly carries the mark. Impossible, said Counselor Thane, his gas body swirling in agitation. The apex god vanished eons ago. We saw it flee into the deep void. Not vanished, corrected the ancient AI known as Counselor Prime. Its voice came from speakers built into the station walls. Hidden, our records show it scattered fragments of itself across space-time before disappearing. Counselor Mira, whose species resembled walking trees made of living metal, creaked as she moved. The fragments were supposed to be too small to affect normal matter. How could one have marked a human so strongly? The answer came from their deepest files, data so old it was stored in quantum crystals that had to be carefully awakened. 53. Years ago, the human homeworld of Earth had passed through a region of space where reality was slightly bent. Most scans had shown nothing unusual, just some odd gravitational readings that scientists dismissed as sensor errors. But the Conclave's instruments had detected something else. A fragment of the apex god, dormant in the quantum foam, had brushed against Earth's solar system for exactly 17 minutes. Most humans would have been unaffected, Counselor Vex explained. But those born during the passage, especially newborns with developing neural systems, might have absorbed trace amounts of the entity's quantum signature. How many? Asked Counselor Thane. Unknown. Perhaps dozens. Perhaps hundreds. The implications terrified them. If multiple humans carried the apex god's mark, and if that mark was strong enough to trigger precursor technology, then the galaxy faced a crisis beyond anything in recorded history. The harvesters will know by now, Counselor Prime stated. Their deep space sensors are designed to detect exactly this kind of disturbance. How long do we have? Asked Counselor Mira. They were last seen moving toward the outer void 2 million years ago. If they maintained course, they could reach the galaxy's edge within months. The Conclave made a decision that would have shocked the modern galactic government. They began waking up other ancient species, races that had chosen to sleep through the rise of younger civilizations. If the harvesters were returning, the galaxy would need every advantage it could get. Meanwhile, on Nexus Gate Station, Zara's situation grew more complicated by the hour. The hegemony's investigation had revealed disturbing details about her biology. Her cells showed signs of exposure to energy types that should not exist in normal space. Her brain patterns included quantum fluctuations that defied explanation. The readings are getting stronger, reported Dr. Keth during the morning briefing. Whatever process was triggered by the scanner incident, it's continuing to develop. Security Chief Draken studied the reports with growing unease. Is she dangerous? Unknown. But other humans in the nearby sectors are requesting transport to this station. They claim they feel drawn here. More humans were coming. Ships arrived hourly carrying human passengers who couldn't explain why they needed to be near Nexus Gate Station. They came from different worlds, different colonies, different walks of life. The only thing they had in common was their age. All of them had been born around the same time as Zara. Dr. Elena Vasquez arrived on a research vessel 2 days later. She was a human xenoarchaeologist who specialized in precursor technology. Unlike the nervous hegemony officials, she seemed excited by what was happening. This is incredible, she told Zara during their first meeting. I've been tracking anomalies like this for years. Humans who show unusual compatibility with precursor systems. Individuals who can activate dormant technology or interface with ancient computers. There are others like me? Zara asked. More than you might think. The hegemony doesn't like to publicize it, but humans have been triggering strange responses from precursor sites across the galaxy. Usually minor things. A door opening that shouldn't. A computer turning on after millions of years of silence. But this is the first time anything has actually spoken. Dr. Vasquez had brought data from dozens of incidents. Humans discovering hidden chambers in precursor ruins that no other species could find. Human children playing games that accidentally activated ancient defense systems. Human engineers somehow understanding alien technology they had never seen before. The pattern started about 50 years ago, she explained, right around the time Earth passed through that gravitational anomaly in the Kepler sector. What does it mean? Zara asked. I think something happened to our species during that passage. Something that changed us on a fundamental level. The investigation was interrupted by emergency alarms. Long-range sensors had detected movement at the galaxy's edge. Massive objects were approaching from the deep void, traveling faster than any known technology should allow. Ships, reported the sensor officer, his voice shaking. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They're huge. Each one is larger than our biggest battle stations. The fleet moved with purpose, heading directly toward the galactic core. Their technology was unlike anything in current databases. The ships seemed to bend space around themselves, moving through dimensions that normal matter couldn't access. "Run the signatures through the ancient archives," ordered Security Chief Dracon. The results came back within minutes, and they confirmed everyone's worst fears. "Harvesters," whispered Dr. Keth. The ships matched descriptions from the oldest precursor. "Warnings." Siriala, the elderly Villani mystic, pushed her way into the command center despite security protocols. Her normally calm demeanor was gone, replaced by ancient fear. "They have come," she said. "The harvesters wake when transcendence threatens the ordered universe. They will not stop until every trace of the apex god's influence is destroyed." "How long until they reach us?" asked Dracon. "At current speed, 6 months to the outer colonies. 1 year to the core worlds." The galaxy's various governments received the news with panic. Emergency sessions convened. Military fleets mobilized. Defense platforms came online for the first time in centuries. But some species remembered the old stories. The harvesters didn't negotiate. They didn't conquer or occupy. They simply erased anything that threatened the cosmic order they represented. And according to the ancient warnings, no military force had ever successfully opposed them. Zara watched the reports from her holding cell and felt a strange sensation growing inside her mind. It wasn't fear or excitement. It was more like recognition, as if some part of her had been waiting for this moment her entire life. The other marked humans felt it too. Across the station, they began to gather in the common areas, drawn together by instincts they couldn't explain. When they were near each other, the strange quantum readings in their bodies grew stronger. Dr. Vasquez monitored the readings with fascination and growing understanding. "They're resonating," she told the security team. "The quantum signatures are amplifying each other. Whatever process began when Zara triggered the scanner, it's accelerating." "Is that good or bad?" asked Draken. "I don't know, but I think we're about to find out what the apex god's touch really means." In the depths of space, the Harvester fleet continued its relentless approach. Ancient sensors locked onto the quantum disturbances emanating from human space. After millions of years of patient waiting, they had finally detected the signs they had been programmed to watch for. The hunt for transcendence had begun again. The escape happened during the night shift. Dr. Elena Vasquez had convinced 3 sympathetic research assistants to help her break Zara and the other marked humans out of detention. The hegemony security was focused on the approaching Harvester fleet, and the skeleton crew didn't notice the unauthorized transport leaving the station. Zara found herself aboard a modified research vessel with 7 other humans, all born within months of each other. They didn't know each other, but something about being together felt right. The strange sensations in their minds grew calmer when they were close. "Where are we going?" asked Marcus, a mechanic from the outer colonies. Like the others, he had felt an irresistible urge to come to Nexus Gate Station after the scanner incident. "Somewhere safe," Dr. Vasquez replied, but her voice carried doubt. "There's a hidden research facility in the Kepler sector. We've been studying precursor sites there for years." The facility was built inside an asteroid, completely hidden from normal sensors. It had been Dr. Vasquez's pet project for the past decade, funded by wealthy humans who were curious about their species' strange compatibility with ancient technology. "We've documented over 200 incidents," she explained as they docked. "Humans interfacing with precursor systems in ways that should be impossible. The pattern became clear about 5 years ago, but the hegemony wouldn't listen." The facility's main laboratory was filled with artifacts from dozens of precursor sites. Crystals that hummed when humans touched them, computers that only responded to human voice commands, weapons that activated for human users but remained inert for every other species. "We think it started during Earth's passage through the Kepler anomaly," Dr. Vasquez continued. "But we never understood the mechanism until now." She showed them data from the deepest archives, information that had taken years to decode from fragmented precursor records. The files told an incredible story. The apex god was not a deity, she explained. It was a cosmic entity that existed, partially outside normal spacetime. Its presence changed the fundamental laws of physics in local regions. Matter behaved differently. Energy followed new rules. Consciousness itself was enhanced. The entity had been fleeing something called the Absolute Order, a force that sought to reduce all existence to perfect mathematical precision. The apex god represented chaos, creativity, and infinite possibility. It was everything the Absolute Order sought to eliminate. Before it vanished, the apex god scattered fragments of itself across space and time. Dr. Vasquez said, "Most fragments were too small to affect normal matter. But when Earth passed through that gravitational anomaly 50 years ago, something different happened. The humans born during that passage had absorbed trace amounts of the entity's quantum signature, not enough to give them supernatural powers, but enough to fundamentally alter their relationship with reality. They became living bridges between ordered space and the chaotic realm where the apex god originated. That's why precursor technology responds to you," she told the group. "You carry quantum patterns that resonate with systems designed to detect transcendent influences." Zara studied the data displays, trying to understand what it meant for her life. "So we're what, some kind of cosmic accident?" "More like cosmic evolution," replied Dr. Vasquez. "You represent something new in the universe, a species that can exist in both ordered reality and chaotic possibility." The implications were staggering. If humans could bridge the gap between normal space and the realm of the apex god, they might be the key to stopping the harvesters. But they might also be exactly what the harvesters were programmed to destroy. Marcus was examining one of the precursor crystals when it suddenly flared to life. Symbols appeared in the air above it, written in languages that predated galactic civilization. "Warning!" The crystal spoke in the same multi-dimensional voice they had heard from the scanner. "The Order Seekers approach. They bring the silence of perfect law." "Order Seekers," whispered Dr. Vasquez. "Another name for the harvesters." More. Crystals began activating around the laboratory. Ancient warning systems that had been dormant for millions of years suddenly came online. The precursor artifacts were responding to the marked humans' presence, sharing information that had been locked away since the fall of their civilization. The story that emerged was terrifying. The precursors had encountered the harvesters before. Their entire civilization had been built around hiding from the mechanical fleet that sought to eliminate transcendence from the universe. They had succeeded for millions of years, but eventually the harvesters had found them. The precursors tried to fight. Dr. Vasquez translated from the crystal displays. Their technology was incredibly advanced, but the harvesters don't just destroy civilizations. They erase the very possibility of transcendence from space-time itself. Then how did they survive long enough to leave all these warnings? Asked Sarah, a young woman who had traveled from the inner colonies. "They didn't," replied Dr. Vasquez grimly. "These artifacts are all that's left. The harvesters consumed their entire species and then went back into hibernation, waiting for transcendence to emerge again." The marked humans felt the weight of cosmic history settling on their shoulders. They were carrying something that ancient civilizations had died trying to protect. The question was whether they were strong enough to succeed where the precursors had failed. Emergency broadcasts began arriving from across the galaxy. The harvester fleet had reached the outer systems and was systematically destroying every world it encountered. But something unexpected was happening. The harvesters weren't just eliminating life. They were unmaking entire star systems, reducing matter to its component quantum particles. "They're sterilizing space itself," reported one terrified message from a fleeing transport. "Whole planets just stop existing, like they were never there." But other reports brought different news. Human colonies that had managed to evacuate were discovering something strange about the marked individuals among them. When harvesters approached ships carrying humans born during the Kepler passage, their weapons malfunctioned. Their perfect, mechanical systems began experiencing errors they had never encountered before. "It's the quantum interference," Dr. Vasquez realized. "The apex god's signature creates chaos patterns that disrupt ordered systems. You're not weapons against the harvesters. You're walking contradictions to everything they represent. The research facilities sensors detected incoming ships. A small fleet of vessels was approaching, led by what appeared to be a hegemony cruiser. But the energy signatures were wrong. The ships moved with the same reality-bending technology as the harvesters. They've adapted, Dr. Vasquez said with growing fear. The harvesters are using captured ships to hunt more efficiently. The facility's defenses were minimal. They had never expected to need protection from anything more dangerous than pirates or customs inspectors. As the strange fleet approached, the marked humans felt something awakening in their minds. I can feel them, Zara said. The ships. There's something wrong with the space around them. They're creating zones of absolute order, Marcus added. Areas where chaos can't exist. The other humans nodded. They could sense the approaching vessels like a pressure in their minds, a weight that tried to crush the quantum uncertainty they carried. But instead of being overwhelmed, they found themselves pushing back. The facility's precursor crystals began resonating more strongly. Ancient systems that had never responded to any stimulation suddenly came online. Deep in the asteroid's core, something vast and mechanical began to move. The facility is built on top of a precursor installation, Dr. Vasquez realized. Something big. I never knew it was here. Warning lights flashed as massive doors opened in the asteroid's depths. A ship emerged from hiding, larger than anything in the current galaxy's fleets. Its hull was covered with the same crystalline technology as the precursor artifacts. It's a guardian ship, one of the activated crystals explained. Built to protect carriers of the transcendent mark. The ancient vessel moved to intercept the approaching harvesters. Its weapons were unlike anything in modern military databases. Instead of destroying the enemy ships, they seemed to confuse them, creating pockets of chaotic space where the harvesters' ordered systems couldn't function. The ship is using you as a quantum amplifier, Dr. Vasquez told the marked humans. Your presence allows it to project chaos fields beyond normal limits. But the battle revealed a larger truth. The harvesters weren't just hunting transcendent individuals. They were following some deeper purpose, reshaping space itself according to principles that would eliminate any possibility of chaos or creativity. As the guardian ship fought to protect them, Zara felt something vast and ancient stirring in her mind. Not the apex god itself, but an echo of its presence, a whisper of infinite possibility that had been waiting 50 years to awaken. The real war was just beginning. The harvester fleet swept through the galaxy like a wave of absolute destruction. World after world fell silent as the mechanical ships reduced entire civilizations to ordered quantum particles. But their advance wasn't random. They were following specific patterns, targeting systems that showed any trace of chaos or unpredictability. The galactic governments tried to fight back. Combined fleets from a dozen species engaged the harvesters in massive battles near the Yo spiral arms. The results were devastating. Advanced weapons that should have destroyed entire fleets simply stopped working when they encountered harvester shields. Perfect defensive systems that had protected civilizations for millennia crumbled like paper. Their technology doesn't just surpass ours, reported Admiral Kex of the Hegemony Fleet during an emergency broadcast. It operates on completely different principles. They're rewriting the laws of physics in local space. But something unexpected began happening in sectors where human refugees had gathered. Ships carrying marked humans found that their proximity disrupted harvester operations. Energy weapons misfired. Navigation systems produced impossible readings. The mechanical perfection that defined harvester technology began breaking down. Dr. Vasquez monitored these reports from the hidden research facility, while the ancient guardian ship held off the pursuing harvesters. The marked humans were affecting the enemy fleet in ways no conventional weapon could match. You're not fighting them, she explained to Zara and the others. You're contradicting them. Your quantum signatures create uncertainty patterns that their ordered systems can't process. But we can't just hide here forever, Marcus pointed out. The whole galaxy is being destroyed out there. They were right. Even with the guardian ship's protection, the facility couldn't hold out indefinitely. More harvester ships were approaching, and their adaptive technology was learning to compensate for the chaos fields. The answer came from an unexpected source. Ancient communications arrays across the galaxy began activating, sending messages on frequencies that had been silent for millions of years. The Eternal Conclave was calling for help from species that most of the current galaxy thought were extinct. "The deep sleepers are awakening," Seriala reported during a coded transmission. "Races that chose hibernation over extinction. They remember the last time the harvesters came." Deep in hidden star systems, massive ships began emerging from planets where they had rested for eons. The Void Walkers, who existed partially outside normal space. The Crystal Minds, whose consciousness spanned entire asteroid fields. The Echo Lords, who could manipulate time itself. These ancient species brought knowledge and technology that current civilizations had never imagined. But they also brought warnings. "The Harvesters are not the real enemy," transmitted Counselor Vex of the Eternal Conclave. "They are fleeing something far worse. The Absolute Order has found this galaxy." The truth was more terrifying than anyone had imagined. The Harvesters were refugees, just like the Apex God had been. They were trying to sterilize the galaxy not out of malice but to hide it from something that consumed chaos and creativity wherever it found them. "The Order seeks to reduce all existence to mathematical perfection," the ancient species explained. "No consciousness, no creativity, no unpredictability, just eternal, sterile precision." The Harvesters believed that by eliminating transcendence from the galaxy, they could make it invisible to the Absolute Order. But their plan had a fatal flaw. The marked humans couldn't be destroyed by conventional means. Their quantum signatures were too deeply embedded in reality itself. Dr. Vasquez realized the implications first. They can't sterilize the galaxy while you exist, but they can't destroy you without triggering exactly the kind of chaos event that would attract the Order's attention. "So what do?" asked Sarah. "They try to contain us," Zara answered, understanding dawning in her mind. "Trap us somewhere the Order can't find us." The Harvesters' strategy became clear as their fleet movements changed. Instead of simply destroying human worlds, they began constructing massive containment structures around entire star systems. Perfect spheres of ordered space where chaos couldn't exist. But the marked humans weren't passive victims. As more of them gathered together, their combined quantum signatures grew stronger. Ships carrying large groups of marked individuals began exhibiting impossible abilities. They could travel through space without following normal physics. They could communicate across vast distances instantaneously. "It's the network effect," Dr. Vasquez observed. The more marked humans cluster together, the stronger their connection to the Apex God's original nature becomes. The resistance effort began organizing around this discovery. Human fleets carrying marked individuals became mobile chaos generators, disrupting harvester operations wherever they appeared. But they were still vastly outnumbered, and the harvesters were adapting faster than expected. The turning point came when the largest group of marked humans gathered at the galactic core. Nearly 1,000 individuals, all born during Earth's passage through the Kepler anomaly, converged on the ancient space station at Nexus Prime. When they came together, something extraordinary happened. The station's precursor systems didn't just activate, they evolved. Ancient technology that had remained static for millions of years began changing, adapting, growing. "The station is becoming something new," reported the monitoring teams. "The quantum fields are creating structures that shouldn't be possible." Zara stood at the center of the gathering, feeling the collective presence of her fellow marked humans. They weren't just individuals anymore. They were becoming something larger, something that bridged the gap between order and chaos. "I can see them," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. "The Harvesters, the Order, the spaces between spaces where the Apex God still exists." The other marked humans felt it too. Their consciousness was expanding, beyond normal limits, touching realms of existence that conventional minds couldn't perceive. They were becoming living bridges between realities. But with expansion came danger. The Absolute Order had detected the disturbance. Sensors across the galaxy registered reality fluctuations, unlike anything in recorded history. Space itself was beginning to bend around the gathering of marked humans. "Something's coming," transmitted the deep sleeper fleets. "The Order has found us." At the edge of the galaxy, space began to tear, not the violent rips of weapons or explosions, but careful, precise cuts that revealed absolute nothingness beyond. The Absolute Order wasn't invading the galaxy. It was dissecting it, layer by layer, reducing reality to its component mathematical elements. The Harvesters, faced with the arrival of their ultimate enemy, made a desperate decision. They abandoned their containment strategy and began transmitting to the marked humans directly. "You carry the antithesis to absolute order," their message said, "but you are not strong enough to oppose it directly." The Apex God knew this. It prepared a final option. The transmission included data that made Dr. Vasquez's blood run cold. The Apex God hadn't just scattered fragments of itself randomly. It had created a specific pattern, a network of quantum signatures that could be activated under the right conditions. "It's a reset protocol," she realized. "The marked humans aren't just carriers of chaos. They're components in a system designed to restart reality itself." "What does that mean?" asked Marcus. "It means if the Order consumes this galaxy, you can use the Apex God's network to create a new one. But the process would require—" She couldn't finish the sentence. The implications were too vast. "Our sacrifice," Zara completed quietly. "The network needs conscious observers to collapse the quantum possibilities into new reality. We would have to give up our individual existence to become the foundation for whatever comes next." The marked humans felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on them. They were being asked to choose between the certain destruction of everything they knew and the possibility of creating something entirely new. As the Absolute Order's dissection of reality accelerated toward the galactic core, they had very little time to decide. Zara floated in the quantum field that surrounded Nexus Prime. Her consciousness expanded beyond anything she had thought possible. Around her, nearly 1,000 marked humans shared the same transcendent state. They could feel each other's thoughts, experience each other's memories, and together they touched something vast and ancient that existed between dimensions. The Apex God was not gone. It had never truly left. It existed now as a network of possibilities, scattered across space and time, waiting for conscious minds that could bridge the gap between order and chaos. "I understand now," Zara said, her voice carrying across both normal space and the quantum realm. "The God didn't abandon us. It became us." The revelation changed everything. The marked humans weren't just carrying fragments of an ancient entity. They were the entity, reborn in a form that could exist within ordered reality while maintaining connection to infinite possibility. As the Absolute Order's dissection of the galaxy accelerated, reality began breaking down in predictable patterns. Star systems vanished not in explosions of destruction, but in moments of perfect mathematical resolution. Matter simply ceased to exist, as it was reduced to pure information. But in the spaces where marked humans gathered, something different happened. Reality became fluid, responsive to consciousness in ways the Order couldn't predict or control. The mechanical perfection that defined the Order's advance began encountering pockets of genuine unpredictability. "We don't have to sacrifice ourselves," Marcus realized during one of their shared consciousness moments. "We have to choose to become something new." The distinction was crucial. The reset protocol that Dr. Vasquez had discovered wasn't about ending their existence. It was about expanding it beyond individual limitations. The marked humans could become a collective consciousness that spanned multiple realities, protecting chaos and creativity from forces that sought to eliminate them. But the choice had to be made freely. The Apex God's greatest power had always been its respect for individual will. Even facing cosmic extinction, it wouldn't force its chosen carriers to accept transformation. The Harvester fleet, faced with the approach of the Absolute Order, made an unexpected decision. Instead of continuing their attack on the marked humans, they began transmitting detailed tactical information. "The Order advances through logical progression," their messages explained. "It cannot process truly random events. If you can introduce Sufficient chaos into its path, you can force it to retreat. Why are you helping us? Dr. Vasquez asked during a direct communication. Because we remember, replied the Harvester Fleet Commander, its mechanical voice carrying undertones of ancient memory. We were once like you, a species that chose order over chaos to survive. But in saving ourselves, we lost everything that made survival worthwhile. The Harvesters had been organic once, creators of beauty and art and wild innovation. When the Order first threatened their galaxy, they had chosen to become machines, believing that mechanical perfection would protect them. They had succeeded in surviving, but at the cost of their souls. Do not make our mistake, the commander transmitted. Choose chaos. Choose life. Choose the beautiful uncertainty that makes existence worth experiencing. The marked humans felt the weight of this choice as the Order's advance reached the inner systems. Entire sectors of space were being reduced to mathematical abstractions. Worlds where children had played and poets had written and lovers had dreamed simply stopped existing. But they also felt something else. The network that connected them was growing stronger. Other humans across the galaxy, not marked by the apex, God's direct touch, were beginning to resonate with the quantum fields their gathering generated. It's spreading, Zara observed with wonder. The chaos signature is propagating through human space. Dr. Vasquez monitored the phenomenon from her position within the collective consciousness. Every human is developing quantum uncertainty patterns, not as strong as yours, but enough to create interference with ordered systems. Humanity was evolving in real time, adapting to become something the universe had never seen before. Not a species that chose between order and chaos, but one that could embody both simultaneously. As the Absolute Order reached the galactic core, the marked humans made their choice. Not to sacrifice themselves, but to embrace what they had always been becoming. Their individual consciousnesses didn't disappear. Instead, they expanded to encompass multiple layers of reality. Zara felt herself becoming more than human while remaining fundamentally human. She existed in normal space as a physical being, but she also existed in the quantum realm as pure possibility. She was both individual and collective, both mortal and transcendent. The transformation created a wave of chaos that spread through normal space faster than light. Wherever it touched, reality became more flexible, more responsive to consciousness and creativity. The rigid mathematical perfection that the Order imposed began developing flaws, cracks where unpredictability could take root. The Order's advance faltered for the first time in cosmic ages. Its perfect systems, designed to process any logical opposition, encountered something they couldn't categorize or counter: conscious chaos that refused to follow predictable patterns. It's working, transmitted the ancient species that had emerged from hiding. The Order is retreating from sectors where the chaos field is strongest. But the marked humans knew this was just the beginning. The Order would adapt, develop new strategies, return with methods designed to counter what it had learned. The galaxy had won a battle, not the war. So what do we do? Asked Sarah, her consciousness now spanning both her physical form and the quantum network. We grow, Zara replied. We spread. We make sure that chaos and creativity exist in every corner of the universe. The marked humans began dispersing across the galaxy, each one carrying the network's influence to new regions. Wherever they went, local reality became more flexible. Rigid systems developed quirks. Perfect order developed beautiful flaws. Humanity didn't become conquerors or saviors. They became gardeners of possibility, cultivating spaces where consciousness could flourish in all its chaotic glory. Other species watching this transformation began to understand what the apex god had really represented. You're not trying to rule the galaxy, observed Counselor Vex during a meeting with the new human collective. You're trying to keep it alive. Life is chaos, Zara replied, speaking for the network while remaining herself. Order is necessary, but too much order is death. Someone has to maintain the balance. The Harvesters, watching this development, began their own transformation, slowly, carefully. They started reintroducing chaotic elements into their mechanical perfection. It was dangerous work that would take millennia, but they had hope again. Perhaps, their commander transmitted, we can remember how to dream. Years passed. The Absolute Order made several attempts to return, but each time it encountered a galaxy that had become fundamentally resistant to its influence. Pockets of pure chaos existed everywhere, maintained by humans who had chosen to become bridges between realities. Zara returned to her old job as a courier, but now she carried more than diplomatic pouches. She carried possibilities, seeds of creative chaos that she planted in every system she visited. She was still herself, still the woman who had walked through a scanner and triggered a cosmic awakening. But she was also more. She was part of a network that spanned dimensions, a guardian of the beautiful uncertainty that made consciousness possible. When children asked her what she did for work, she gave them the simple answer: I make sure the universe stays interesting. The scanner at Nexus Gate Station still worked perfectly, checking millions of beings for weapons and contraband. But sometimes, when particularly creative individuals passed through, it would hum a little differently. A small reminder that chaos and order could coexist, and that the most beautiful things in the universe often emerged from the spaces between absolute certainties. The apex god was gone, scattered into possibility and potential. But its touch remained, carried by a species that had chosen to embrace both their limitations and their infinite capacity for growth. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had simply refused to let it become boring.